Good morning, or actually afternoon, Indian Valley students, Midvale specifically. Today, we're going to talk about text and graphic features. We have definitely been talking about text and graphic features since the beginning of the year. We keep adding new ones. Hopefully, you already know most of these text and graphic features and are able to help me out. So, here we go. I would like to start with the beginning of a book or a passage. And what do you think we're going to start with? Well, we've got to give it a title. A title. Now, a title, remember, is going to tell us what the text is about, whether it is an entire book or just a passage. The title gives us the main idea, the big idea, or the theme that's going to take place in the story. Okay. So if we're using a book, um, we would have a title, and then the next pages that we would look at would be our um, table of contents. So, a table of contents is a um, section that tells us the parts broken down, and they will tell us what each chapter, if it's a chapter book, is going to be about, or what each section is going to be about, and what page we can find that section on. It's supposed to make it more accessible to you, easier to find what you're looking for. Last night, I was actually looking for a part in a book I was reading to reread to Mr. Ed, and because there was no table of contents, it was pretty difficult. So, in a book, the second thing that you will find is a table of contents. Now, let's jump back to the back of a book. In the back, we're going to have a glossary. Remember, that's like our little mini dictionary. The glossary gives us a alphabetical list of the words and then the definitions that go with the words. So if we come across a word and we don't quite understand what it might mean and we're unable to use those context clues around that word, we can go to the back of our book and see if that word is listed alphabetically, and there should be a definition beside it. So the glossary helps us with our understanding of words. Also, in the back of the book is an index. So, if you're looking for a particular word, an index actually lists um, pages that you will find words or topics, important words or topics on. The index will say, hey, you will see the word, I'm just going to pick one, but let's just say like photosynthesis. You might find that on page 52, 78, and 120. So your index is if you're looking for a specific word or set of words or ideas, they're easily accessible through the index in the back of the book. Okay, so let's talk about those text and graphic features that help us with our understanding of things. So, a lot of nonfiction texts, well, the majority of them, let's be honest, have what real live photographs. I know they don't really come alive, so I say real live, but it's not. So, they have photos, and photos are what are photos? They are the showing or the visual that helps us better understand what we're reading. Um, Sometimes the photo will also have a little thing at the bottom, and if you remember correctly, that little thing is called a anybody caption. The caption gives us specific details of the actual photograph. If I want to know what I'm looking at, I'm going to read the caption because the caption is going to tell me, hey, this is the picture of them sitting down to drink tea at the Boston Tea Party. So your caption just gives you more details about that particular photograph. Now, sometimes we have a picture, but it's not a real photograph, and that is an illustration. And those illustrations are those pictures that have been drawn. I feel like I'm a little confused here. Pictures that are drawn and or painted, and they help create that visual. They show you, because remember, the idea of photographs and pictures is to show you what the words are talking about. All right. I think I want to go to heading. Heading. And remember, this is a lot like a title. A heading gives you what that section is going to be talking about. So if my heading is saving water, then I'm probably going to read a lot about how I can save water. So the heading gives you um, the idea of what you're going to be reading. It's kind of like the big idea, main idea of that section. So a heading is pretty important if you're looking for a main idea. Keep that in mind. All right, now let's move to some of our other text and graphic features that are helpful. Let's talk about bold print. Bold print um, is trying to put emphasis on a word because that word is probably pretty important to what you're learning. And so if there's bold print, there may or may not be a that word in the back of in the glossary. You might want to go back and check because apparently that word's pretty important, and they're probably going to give you a more depthful definition of that word. So bold print is another text and graphic feature that's pretty important. Now, these last three that I want to talk about, you may or may not find them in every story. One is a map. So if you're doing a lot of things where they want to show you where it's happening, for instance, the coronavirus, they're going to give you a map to help show the location. And sometimes the map will be very close up, and then other times it'll have maybe a more broad picture of it. And then sometimes they give you both, but a map helps you understand where it's taking place, the location on the earth or the location on the United States or wherever this may be taking place. So a map's pretty important as well. Diagrams. I love diagrams. Right now, you're seeing a lot of diagrams because you're reading from seed to plant, and a tree is growing, I think, is maybe the other story. And so there are a lot of diagrams to help you understand what's happening. The life cycle is a form of a diagram. So a diagram is actually showing you how it works. If it's a life cycle, then it's showing you that it goes from egg to chick to hen. So these are pretty helpful. And the last one I want to talk about is the timeline. We've seen quite a few of these, especially when you're doing biographies. You'll see a timeline, or uh, just with the coronavirus, you might see a timeline to make this more realistic, but it shows the events in the order that they occurred. Now, remember, when we've done these with biographies, we've talked about, like, let's just go back to Martin Luther King. We've used timelines to find out when he was born, when he helped the busers, when he earned his Nobel Prize, when he married his wife, and then finally when his I Have a Dream speech was given. So a timeline kind of gives you an idea of when something occurred or happened, and you can kind of look at the distance or years between to help you better understand. So those are just some of our text and graphic features. There is a paper that is coming to you, and if you could find a nonfiction book either on Bookflix or in your home, I thought about just saying use your story. You can do that as well. Whatever works for you. See if you can work through that particular paper and find these text and graphic features, and then tell me how that was helpful to you. So I hope this helps, and I hope you're all staying safe and well. And until I talk to you again, go Brave.